Good afternoon, everyone. I, CS Praveen Soni, Practicing Company Secretary from Mumbai and Chairman, Practicing Company Secretary Committee of the ICSI and the Central Council member of the ICSI, extend a warm welcome to our respected speakers and participants who have gathered us today for this enlightening this session on reporting entities and the company secretaries navigating AML/CFT guide under the umbrella of EEE 5.0 Master Knowledge Series. First of all, I place my sincere thanks to the President ICSI for giving this opportunity to moderate this webinar. Friends, before we devolve into the topic, we are delighted to announce that the applications are open for the prestigious ICSI National Award for Excellence in Corporate Governance for the year 2025. This year, we are celebrating the 25th edition of these awards for honoring excellence by recognizing the organizations that set benchmark in corporate governance. Applications are also open for the ICSI Lifetime Achievement Awards, ICSI CSR Excellence Awards, and the ICSI Business Responsibility and Sustainability Awards. Friends, for further details of award and processes categorization, kindly visit the ICSI website, and the last day to submit the applications has been extended till 10th of September 2025. Further, the Institute is inviting applications for the Best PCS Firm Award, that is Best Practicing Company Secretary Firm Award, and the Best Secretarial Audit Report Award for the year 2025. The last day to submit the applications of these awards is 25th September 2025. Also, we are overwhelmed to announce that the 4th ICSI Board Mentorship Program to be held from 18 to 21 September of 2025 in Kalimpong, West Bengal. For further details, kindly visit the ICSI website. Coming back to the topic of the day, navigating AML/CFT, that is anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. Friends, in today's dynamic regulatory environment, financial crimes such as money laundering and terror financing pose a grave threat to the global economic and the corporate governance structure. With increasing responsibilities being placed on the professionals under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act and the FATF recommendation and other regulatory framework, company secretaries are uniquely positioned to act as guardian of compliance, transparency, and ethical business conduct. The framework of anti-money laundering and countering the financing terrorism has gradually evolved in India and internationally, with company secretaries emerging as important stakeholders in ensuring compliances and governance. Initially, the money laundering was primarily addressed under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, that is PMLA Act, which imposed certain obligations mainly on bank, financial institutions, and the intermediaries. The global development, which such as Financial Action Task Force recommendations and Basel Committee principles, further influence India's regulatory stance, encouraging the professional across corporate and the financial sector to adopt strong compliance system. Gradually, the obligations around the customer due diligence, that is the KYC, and the beneficial ownership disclosure, suspicious transaction reporting, and risk-based monitoring extended beyond traditional financial institutions to cover corporate entities and designated professionals. For company secretaries, this evolution comes particularly relevant after the Ministry of Corporate Affairs emphasized the enhanced disclosure norms, identification of ultimate beneficial owners, and greater accountability in compliance certifications. The Institute of Corporate Secretaries of India has also begun issuing of guidance note, training modules, and awareness programs to strengthen the members' understanding on AML and CFT responsibilities. The session aims to equip participants with the practical insights into the evolving AML/CFT obligations, the role of reporting entities, and the critical function company secretaries play in building robust internal control, risk management framework, and effective compliance mechanism. Together, we will explore how our profession can proactively contribute to strengthening the fight against the illicit financial activities in safeguarding corporate integrity. For detailed deliberations on the topic, and we have expert views, we are honored to have with us distinguished expert Shri Elaine Chelian ji, Joint Director, FIU India, and Shri Bharat Chuk, Advocate and Formature. Friends, the participants are requested to kindly post their queries to the chat box of this webinar. To have the regulator's perspective, we have Sri Ilan Chelianji, who is Joint Director FIU India. Let me brief you something about FIU India. The FIU India is basically financial intelligence unit set up by the Government of India, by OM dated 18th of November 2004 as the central national agency responsible for receiving, processing, analyzing, and disseminating the information related to suspected financial transactions. The FIU India is also responsible for coordinating and strengthening efforts of national and international intelligence, investigations, and enforcement agencies in pursuance of the global efforts against money laundering and financing of terrorism. FIU India is independent body reporting directly to the Economic Intelligence Council, that is EIC, which is headed by the Finance Minister of India. Sir, we are honored to have you with us for deliberations on the topic, and now we request you to kindly take it forward. Over to you, Ilan Challenge.
Thank you, sir, for this introduction. Good evening, everyone who have participated across the country. I mean, who have taken time to take part in this seminar. It shows your commitment to the compliance and the compliance culture. And ICSA has been in the front line of the compliance activities in the country, and they have been very cooperative with us, particularly in the matters concerning PMLA and the associated guidelines, and how to educate the practicing members to familiarize themselves with these regulations. And we have been regularly interacting with their officers, and in order to identify the common areas where certain clarifications can be issued. So I again thank the management who has been proactive. I've been discussing it with other your peers in ICA and ICMA also, but I can proudly say that ICS has been very proactive compared to them. It shows the commitment, as I said. It's widely they have taken so much in the time since that notification has come up. And coming to this PMLA, I would like to just give a brief why you have been brought into this framework. Traditionally, banks and financial market intermediaries and capital market participants were part of this reporting mechanism. But over the time, as economy develops and financial services develop and corporate structures, complicated structures are brought into the in the market. It appears the financial modus money laundering modus operandi has evolved, and it has become quite complex. And this complex modus operandi are not able to be captured by the suspicious transaction report that has been reported by the banks and other financial market participants. So world over, there is a trend to bring all these designated non-financial professions and other participants into the reporting mechanism, so that the last mile, because you are the like rightly said, you are the gateway to the all these entities to access the markets and the financial ecosystem. So in that way, we thought, there is a general recommendation from FATF, which encourages countries to bring all those these DNFPBs, particularly accountants and the TCSPs, to the reporting mechanism. And world over, that it has brought in a very good deterrent dissuasive effect in combating money laundering by complex structures, corporate structures. And FATF recommends broadly all the services covered by offered by these these company secretaries and corporate lawyers, and also chartered accountants. But here in India, it's I routinely get a comment that why you have made us. There is some sort of some pushback against what is that requirement for bringing all these DNFBBs into PMLA fold. But it is how it is evolving. I mean, we have limited the scope of activities that are brought under PMLA. We will be discussing it. And also, it is like it's not very you are already having much. I mean, a lot of complaints activities and under various laws you are doing it. And PML is just a small portion. I mean, there is nothing to worry about that. And whatever, even if we go talk about penalties, there is no criminal penalties. It's all civil, and that too, we are very conscious about where to apply those dissuasive sanctions. So my only request before proceeding to my session is that please take this regulations in with an open heart, and try to think from the point of view of the countries, protecting the integrity of country's financial system. So that is the main theme with which we all work, and we all brought this DNFBs into this reporting mechanism. So with this, I would like to go a short presentation. I will just skip through it. I think most of this will be already covered, and but still, we can just discuss if there is any specific points that can be discussed at the end of my presentation. So hope my presentation is visible, right?
Yes,
Yeah, thank you for confirmation. So it was this is the basis PMLA section 2.1 WA. Whenever new entities or new set of intermediaries are brought into PMLA, this is the relevant section that that brings in respective entities into the fold of PMLA. That is section 2.1 WA. And why central government can notify any such activity or a profession or any entity into this section, and by virtue of that power, the DNFPBs, particularly CA, CS, and CWAs, were brought into reporting activities whenever they perform certain specific transactions. This May 3 notification talks about financial transactions. This everybody knows it, and this only those activities where the members act in their capacity to on behalf of another person to do these set of 5 activities. It has to be noted that it is a financial transaction, not a regular transaction. It is only financial transaction. Mostly it would involve you acting as a authorized signatory to any of those accounts. So very few of you have operate in such capacity. That's what I come to hear from all my interactions with the various institutes. But this may be of importance when you have very many foreign entities. When they initially come to India, they normally get some services done through some members, some practicing members. In that case, it may have it may be of relevance to you. So make sure if you are doing it, you are covered. And second, again, May 9th notification of 2023, it specifically talks about not only the professions, but also, not only the members as such. It expanded it to include all, in the course of business, if somebody is doing a set of activities. I have not included it here, but it is available in the online. So it talks about if you are in course of their business, if they act as formation agent of partnerships or companies, or acting as a director or secretary of another company, or providing registered office, and or acting as a trustee, and finally are acting as a nominee shareholders. This is already available. Enough has been discussed. But still, the question arises that who are actually covered here. The issue is that most of the time there are some TCSPs like India Filings and other companies. They just do provide all these services. But at the end of the day, it is not possible without any practicing professional signing certain declarations. So by virtue of you signing this thing, it makes it easier for any entity in need of these set of 5 services to directly reach out to any professionals for obtaining those services. So it's like it's how the system is, so that because we don't have any specific NIC code in our MC company's registration, that who are so that we can easily pull out who are into TCSP's line of business. It is very difficult to identify who are covered. So this is what the challenge that we face. Even ICSA also face the same problem in when we try to identify who are actually covered under it. But it is just a simple rule of thumb is that if you are into any of these activities, if you are providing any declaration, then you may be actually covered under this May 9 notification, provided it is any declaration that you offer has a bearing on this set of 5 activities that are mentioned in the May 9th notification. And there are certain exemptions. Say, for example, in the same notification, there are 4 exemptions given. Particular exemption of interest is that when you are providing a certification, when you are providing services that is limited to declaration under section 7 of subsection 1, that is INC 8. I think that is the relevant form. In that case, you are exempted. Your whatever the extent of service that you give is over by after providing declaration under INC 8. Beyond that, if you are not providing anything, then you are exempted. That is fine, because the intention behind that was that, when you are trying to help somebody incorporate a company, you will not know whether it is a shell company or whether it's incorporated with a malified intent. So you are in good faith, you are acting it, so we are not bothered about it. But subsequently, when there are other stages in incorporation, say for example within 180 days you have to give certain certification that company has actually started their business, that gives a layer of legitimacy to that company. That is, when you sign that form INC 20A, you are saying that you are making that, you are providing a veneer of authenticity to that company. So that is where, many bogus companies are, trying to get legitimacy in that fashion. So what what we think from FIU India is that INC 8 is fine. I mean, there is an exemption, and beyond that, any incidental declarations that you provide during incorporation of some companies, then you are automatically covered under May 9 notification. That is some simple rule of thumb that you have to follow, and it is, and you may I would request everybody to, if you are just assess, if you have provide such services, please register with your ICSA, because registering with ICSA is not something that, if you register then we will come after you. It's not that. In fact, if you register, it shows that you are committed to following this notification. We have several avenues to find out who are declaring because MCA website has a wealth of information. We can easily find out who is declaring what and who is acting as a nominee directors in how many companies. So there is so many avenues with which we can come after those those who are doing it with malified intent. So please be, like I said, open-hearted, and please try to register with us. The reason is that one of the clauses under PMLA is that, if you spot a suspicious transaction, you have to report it promptly. So if you are not at all registered with them, and if you are trying to file an STR, then it would make a lot money. The time gap for you to register and then you filing STR, so it would take at least 10-15 days. So it should not happen. So please register with your ICSA, and so that you can file STR if there is a situation that arises that warrants filing of STR, right? So this is about application. But again, if you have any queries beyond that, please reach out to ICSA, and they will be in turn reach out to us. We will clarify you then and there. So there is no hard and fast that thing. I mean, we will not respond to you and all. There is nothing. ICSA has been very proactive. We have been many a times we regularly have coordination meetings with them. So please, if you have any doubts on this applicability, please talk to them, and we will clarify it. Maybe you can come up with some comprehensive Q&As. So for that, we need your comments. Without that, just saying that, we are brought into it and we are not doing it straight away, neglecting this thing is not helping us, right? Thank you. So what are the obligations? I mean, there are just 6 basic obligations that whoever is covered under these 2 notification, they have to fulfill. Right? This It doesn't call for much of investment at your time, resource-wise or time-wise. It's all just a set of good best practices, I would say. So first one is risk assessment and to take effective mitigating measures. So we will discuss in the coming slides. Second one is appoint designated director and principal officer. If you are a sole practitioner, there is no requirement of designated director. You will be the principal officer. And if it is a firm, then you need to have a senior member, a senior management, senior officer who will be having oversight on you, oversight on the activity as a designated director, and the principal officer who will be dealing with the day-to-day activities with respect to AML compliance. And then third is verify and maintain record of all identities of all clients. So this is also main this thing. Again, this you will be anyways you will be maintaining it. Or the details of all your clients, and there are strict guidelines and other clauses of your ICSI. So this is not a problem. And the fourth one is maintain record of all transactions and furnish information with respect to suspicious transactions. This is the fifth one. And last one is internal mechanism to detect and transactions specified in the rule. So we will discuss it one by one. Before proceeding further, the only obligation, I mean, the regular continuous obligation would be that to file suspicious transaction report to FIU India through ICSI. This is the only thing that you have to be regularly on the lookout for. We don't ask for any periodic submission of reports or periodic complaints. I mean, routine filing of various forms. That we don't ask anything at all. The only thing is that you have to file suspicious transaction report promptly when you find such suspicious activity on behalf of your client. So, what is a suspicious transaction? Is that first one? It may involve an offense of predicate crime. Again, something in India we have a set of schedule. We have 3 schedules. If you see in the PMLA, there are set of laws and statutes which are covered under predicate offenses under against that particular statutes are considered to be a predicate offense. And second, it appears in unusual or unjustified complexity. If you are structured, if the company formation or the transaction between various companies appear to be very complex, devoid of any rationale, then it is also a kind of suspicious transaction. And finally, when it involves any activity related to terrorism, again, even though it may be very little relevance to you, but still we have to be mindful of the fact that if you are a party to unwittingly party to such structuring, this may happen particularly in legal NPOs if they are in receipt of some suspect funds which may be used in terror financing. It should be reported then and there, right? So first, this is the basic thing. So we'll discuss much more about this one, risk assessment. So the risk may arise out of under 3 dimensions. First one is the customers, second one is services, and the third one is the countries of operation. So how do you assess your risks? First one is that your customer may be very simple. I mean, a well-known it may be a sole prop or limited liability, or an individual who will be is very well known to you and is is in and out of his activities. Then he may be a low risk customer. But on the other end of spectrum, there may be a foreign customer, foreign entity. Initially, he may be investing multiple Indian companies, and he may be seeking services in incorporation or structuring corporate investments. There, it may be very complex. That would be of higher risk. And again, services, simple services like incorporation and routine filing of the respective statutory reports. It is like a lower risk services. But again, in case of foreign customers, or in case of corporate structures wherein multiple legal entities are part of directorship, holding directorship, and they in turn hold multiple other companies through debt or other means. It depends on the type of service they seek. You have to classify them according to their risk they bring with their service, their service request. And third one is countries of operation. Again, some customers may have multiple operations across the world, and they may particularly try to incorporate companies in AML, I mean, fat of gray listed countries, or they may be having transactions with those jurisdictions. So these are all areas that you should be. Basically, at bare minimum, these three are the sources of your risk. And to assist you with this risk assessment, we conduct India as a country. We conduct a national risk assessment every 3 years, which involves all the stakeholders, including your various statutory bodies such as ICAI and ICSI, who will be informing us about their own insights, and we will be coming up with the national risks. And then FIU, based on our reports which are filed with us, and we will be also conducting studies on them, and we will be issuing various guidance reports. These reports could be used by you to assess, and taking that as a basis, you can try to zero in on your own customer base and the services that you offer, and you can customize your risk assessment. So once you have done what is your risks that are faced by your firm or your practice, you can document those risks, and accordingly you can put in place a AML mechanism to prevent. To make sure that your services are not misused for laundering proceeds of crime or other financial crimes, and also terror financing risk. And again, as we have discussed, a sole practitioner with very limited resources and very limited customer base would not have to expend much resources into documenting and all these things. They can have a very limited scope risk assessment. And in a firm which is a larger in size, with catering to customers across the country and across the world, they should have relevant risk-based resources that are tailored to mitigate AML CFT risks. And coming to client identification, you have to do various major concern for bringing all these DNFBPs into this fold is that obfuscation of beneficial ownership. That is the only concern that major ask from you professionals to pierce through this wheel of corporate wheel, wherein there are multiple layers, nested structures are available, and we are not able to identify who's behind that. So we thought, by bringing these professionals, they will be having a better sense of what is happening behind the complex corporate structures. So they have to do this this due diligence on their part, to the extent they offer the services that are mentioned in the ninth and May 9th and May 3rd notification. Again, so we are not asking you to do due diligence on financial transactions or transaction that a company does on their regular course of business. That is not what is covered. We are only interested in when you form a company, when somebody is acting as a trusteeship, as a trustee or a nominee director. Only to that extent, you should be able to have a clear identification of who's behind all those transactions, and whether you have done all the sanction screening, whether the recipients of your services are not featuring in any of the sanctions designated list, and their wealth and source of those clients are properly documented. These are the basic documents that the due diligence that you have to do it, and you have to keep records of. Anyway, I'll just skip through. Just pass through it. I will leave the presentation for you. But this is a standard due diligence that you have to do. And when we talk about enhanced due diligence, remember previously we spoke about low risk and high risk. When you have a high risk customer, either due to country or due services obtained, or the type of customer, whether if he is a political exposed person or some corporate entity, there you have to have a frequent, enhanced, a step above the regular due diligence. You have to do take some opinion from third-party websites, like MC also provides the details of who's actually behind various entities. You can pay and get the details, and there are various software tools and RegTech tools are there, which can give very good insights on the negative media search results, and also whether they have been involved in any sort of money laundering reports like Panama Papers or any other similar such financial crime modus operandi. If they were involved in it, you will be able to get those data from various third-party tools. And particularly also politically exposed persons. Again, there is some definition given in our PMLA with respect to foreign politically exposed person, and for domestic politically exposed person, you can draft your own definition and you can apply it consistently across your customer base. So these are the situations where you can do enhanced due diligence, so that higher risk customers are put through this enhanced due diligence for making sure that your services are not misused by them. How can so these are additional things: adverse media, sanction screening, criminal penalties. These are all the avenues with which you can these are all the searches that you can do to check for whether your customer features in any of these database. And again, once you have made a risk assessment, you have documented your risk, and you have done due diligence on your customer, and you have started a relationship, everything is fine, and all of a sudden, if your customer comes to you and asks for structuring something which appears to be suspicious, and you are not sure whether it is actually, he may be doing something with malified intent, but if you have a suspicion, you can just report it to us, report it through ICSI, and even ICSI can't see what are the contents of that, but only FIU will be having contents. Can view what you are reporting it. And again, don't think that we are misusing your privilege, professional privilege. It's not like that. Even when we see that financial market participant, they are in the capacity of fiduciaries, even they are also filing STRs. It's not that you are, on one hand, you are supposed to help your client. On the other hand, you are just implicating your own client. It's not that. Here the interest of the country comes above all those things, and you are only pointing out the suspicion. It's not that you are incriminating your customer, say, by filing suspicion. Many a times it may happen that your suspicious transaction report may not have any may turn out to be a false positive. So don't and also don't think that if you file, you will be also implicated along with your client. It's not that. In fact, you are protecting your this thing by filing any suspicion that you notice in course of your business. And again, initially it may appear fine, and over the course of time, when you suspect something which appears contradictory to what he has claimed to you, then also you file STR basis your mismatch of the declaration what he has provided to you. So again, this is you are not in any way held responsible for if that suspicion turns out to be a false positive, and you are legally protected from any such for any complaint by the client, or any such criminal complaint against you, even in as much you are filing suspicious transactions. And again, whenever you file some STRs, it is nobody other than your firm, and if you have a AML division, nobody other outside of your AML division should be knowing that you have filed any STRs on that. Even law enforcement agencies also are not supposed to divulge it to any law enforcement agency. Say, for example, if you are asked by any other law enforcement agency in the course of the investigation to that if they ask whether you have filed any STRs, still you cannot disclose that you have filed STRs. So that is the provisions under PMLA. So only FIU can know that you have filed any STRs on any of your customers, right? And again, how long do you have to keep the data? So data means that, again, only to the extent that the activities that are covered under these two notification. Not every transaction. The business made the legal entity which you helped incorporate may have their own transaction. They may be doing some other transactions for which you are not providing any sort of any services. That is not what we ask. To the extent you provide services, what is the due diligence that you have done, and what are the incidental documents that you have relied upon? Only those documents have to be kept with you, and it has to be maintained for 5 years till the last engagement or from the end of your business relationship. Okay. And in addition to that, again, we are regularly interact with your parent body ICSI, and we give them advisories on typologies and guidelines on what are the best practices for AML CFT risk mitigation. And if we come across any new typologies, latest trends in money laundering modus operandi, we will also share it with them. So this is one of the source where you can regularly update your risk assessment and also refresh your understanding. So please reach out to your ICSI. I think they have dedicated website, and they have dedicated dashboard wherein it's all put out for the information of the members. So please take regular feedback from them. And in addition to PMLA, there is another law which you have also been, by virtue of you being added into this PMLA, there is another act is that Weapons of Mass Destruction Act. I mean, even though it is very rarely, even from our experience, even banks and other financial entities are also have very little reporting with respect to this, but still you should be aware that you are also covered under this act, which is basically, if you are aware, the UNSCR comes up with certain designated list which says that certain entities, particularly North Korea and Iran, they are into proliferation of certain weapons of mass destructions. So the certain entities have been made as a designated list, and all the jurisdictions were asked to prevent any incorporation of companies or to prevent any financial transaction carried out by these designated entities. So again, these are all very rare instances. We have not come across any such instance in India as far as India is concerned, but you should be aware, if any of those your customers who are featuring in that designated list, you are supposed to not to proceed with that relationship. You are immediately supposed to intimate a nodal officer in MCA. Again, this detailed guidelines are given in open source. You can also find this in ICSI website also. Just be aware of it. Particularly, it may happen that maybe a foreign entity may try to open a company in India. He may be featuring in an SDN list. So in that case, you have to be mindful of the fact. And you can find that list in FIU India website and also MCA website, who are all those designated lists, and you can check regularly. And before you get into any such relationship, make sure it is screened for that members, right? And coming to final law, what are the common avenues that are prone to misuse, which are offered by your service, like CS professionals? Particularly, first is complex ownership structures and control structures. Right? Again, technically, ownership details may be somebody. I mean, on paper there may be somebody. Some entities will be there owning this company, but control will be exerted by somebody else. This you will come to know only through regular interactions, because banks and other financial institutions, they can never know it unless the gateway service providers such as CS professionals, you will be having a very close kind of interaction with them. And if you spot any such such instance where on paper there is somebody, but all the control is exerted by some third party, which is not in any of those papers, it behooves you to file such STRs. If you find something, some sort of money laundering is happening. So this is common trend we see across the world. And control through power of attorney and authorized signatory. Again, since majority of activities are through are accessed through financial services. By nominating somebody as power of with authorized signatory or power of attorney, most of the important activities are carried out on behalf of that company. So this is something you may be directly be part of this active action because of POA or authorized signatory powers. That is something you have to be very mindful of. And use of trust in ownership and controls. And again, this is one way of exerting controls and also to distance that actual beneficial owner from the proceeds of crime. So be mindful of that. And use of nominee directors, frontmen, again, the same common typology that we see. Use of legal persons as directors. Still, we see significant number of legal entities have not declared their significant beneficial owners with MCA. Even though there have been repeated reminders from MCA, but still we find significant number of companies are not declared them. So it means there is some challenges with this identification. So that itself is a suspicious phenomenon. So we have to be mindful of that. And use of private investment and debt holders to exert control. Again, if you are advising on any transactions, wherein debt holders may in turn control a company, which is not very visible from seeing their beneficial ownership data. They, by virtue of holding certain debts, they may in turn become controlling parties of a legal entity. So this and all will not be visible for any other traditional reporting entities, but you will be having a sense into it. So this is something that you have to be during your due diligence. You have to have some. You should make sure it is all found out. And use of fictitious entity and fake IDs. Again, this is a common phenomenon that we see. We many a times mule directors are made as of entity. Directors and various entities are formed across the country, and funds are routed across between them just to show some sort of transaction volume. But it's not genuine. So this is something we regularly receive STRs on this matter. And deceptive names for legal structures. Again, when you incorporate legal structures, this is very easy to catch. I mean, we have seen many companies which have deceptively similar names, like well-known companies or government offices, and they may be used for defrauding very poor into retail customers or common people in the name of government or some well-known corporations. That you have to be mindful of that. And finally, foreign controlled entity. Again, this is something many a times these foreign entities, they seek your guidance of practicing professionals to get themselves foothold in India, and they will start from liaison office, and then they open various other legal entities, and they control various entities. So this is something that you are directly, in many cases, directly these practicing professionals are acting as directors in such ventures. So there you have to be very careful. And finally, as we have already, I have told, it is not abuse of your professional privilege. It is like don't take refuge in saying that whatever your customer does, even though you have very good suspicion, you cannot hide behind professional privilege. Wherever there is some genuine concern, genuine suspicious behavior with respect to your client, you are supposed to file STRs. In as much as you are doing certain activities that are put out in those two notifications, right? So this is what I had to share. So further it will be covered. Further legal aspects will be covered by my next speaker, Mr. Chuk, and we can have a questionnaire at the end of the session. I will be happy to answer your queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ilan Chilenji,
Yeah.
for a wonderful detailed presentations on the guidelines and the provisions applicable for the company secretaries. Thanks for giving insight to our members. I do have good amount of questions, some of which I would request kindly you to answer on the same, but we'll take it after the presentation from Mr. Bharat Chuk. So we'll take up the next address from Mr. Bharachuk, and thereafter we'll have the question and answer session. Now, to have the professional perspective, I would request Bharachuk to please give your presentation. Meanwhile, I'll give your profile and introduction to the members. Mr. Bharat is a law graduate at the age of 23 and he secured first rank in the prestigious Delhi Judicial Services examinations and joined the youngest civil judge / metropolitan magistrate in his batch. He currently serves as a member of the and represent India at Young SIAS, that is Singapore International Arbitration Center Committee. Mr. Bharat was also appointed as amicus curiae and went on to represent several unprecedented defendants in serious criminal cases as a friend of the court before the Honorable High Court of Delhi, and he has been practicing as an independent arguing counsel since August 2020. Sir, we are delighted to have you as a speaker for this session. Over to you now, sir, for your expert views on the topic. Bharatji.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Praveenji, for that very kind introduction. The problem with kind introductions, as I always say, is that set the expectations too high. I try not to disappoint you and your members. And I'm grateful to my learned friend who's given a very comprehensive yet brief overview of the broad obligations on company secretaries under these new notifications and the implications it has for the professionals. Apart from, of course, reassuring all our friends who are joining us that, and I must join with him, in expressing this sentiment that, we firmly believe, in company secretaries' roles as conscience keepers of a company or the guardians of a company's conscience. And while judgments have put our role as that of a watchdog, not a bloodhound, but let me say that we are the guardians of corporate governance. And I don't think there would be anyone who can today, with the march of history, disagree with the fact that corporations and free market has been a force for immense good. Now, billions of people across the world have been pulled out of poverty because of the forces of market economy, of corporations. And if that is the most important role of a corporation, a company secretary plays a very vital role in keeping that conscience of that corporation alive and kicking, to ensure that they enable business, but at the same time ensure that businesses and corporations remain conscientious, remain ethical, and overall contributing to the national economy. So the more I don't need to trouble this audience with something like this. We all understand the importance of our roles. The reason I say this is as follows. There has been some amount of concern and consternation in the professionals ever since these notifications came. And not just amongst the professionals, we speak to clients all the time. I've had a few years of defending and prosecuting some of these cases. The word money laundering by itself, when it comes up in conversation, is hardly a very reassuring word. What is attached, there's a lot of stigma attached to the word in that sense. So the conversation today would be to reassure our friends that we are not expecting you to be policemen or investigators. We are not expecting you to be suspects also. You're not being looked as a suspect. But what you are being looked at is for support and partnership in this combined battle that we are fighting against money laundering. So, let's look at ourselves as partners, look at ourselves as people who are keeping the system clean in so many ways, who are, while achieving their clients' legitimate business objectives, are also ensuring that this is all within the framework and the broad four corners of law. So this is what I wanted to say as a preface to my presentation. And in that spirit, I think we can have this conversation today. I'm not going to belabor on what my learned friend has already spoken about very briefly and nicely on what are your broad obligations. My learned friend spoke about who is a reporting entity, when are you a reporting entity, in which cases you may not be a reporting entity at all. And we all understand, by the way, if we take a step back, that the Prevention of Money Laundering Act has about 2 or 3 buckets that it deals with. Number one, it deals with money laundering. Money laundering, just to get this out of the window, because today we are talking about AML. And sometimes, putting a meaning to a word takes away the stigma and helps us understand this better. Now, money laundering is nothing but any activity first. And, for example, you can take it an offense of cheating or an offense of corruption, an offense of criminal breach of trust, an offense of fraud, any property that is derived out of that criminality, which we call a scheduled offense. is called a proceeds of crime. Any property that is derived from that criminal activity. And when that property, which is the proceeds of crime or the fruits of crime, is kept by somebody, acquired by somebody, used by somebody, transferred by somebody, and then portrayed as genuine wealth, is broadly what money laundering is about, and which is what this law seeks to investigate, look into, and prevent. Now, one part of this offense or this act obviously is to investigate the offense of money laundering, try to recover this ill-gotten wealth, if necessary, investigate and prosecute people. And that is where normally I come in as an attorney to defend or prosecute some of these. Now, this is not the part of the law that we are today concerned with. We are concerned with the part of law which is more preventive in nature, which looks towards, as my friend said, banks, other financial gatekeepers who are there to ensure the hygiene of the economy. The second part of the Money Laundering Act looks towards these people as partners who can then proactively and preemptively and preventively report certain red flags, certain suspicions, certain things which do not pass your smell test, so to speak, and then report them proactively so that some of these offenses can be nipped in the bud or prevented or looked into for the good of the larger economy. We are concerned today with the second part. You know, as my friend also very rightly said, that today we are talking about issues which do not lead to criminal prosecution. We are not talking about criminal prosecution, arrest, and all of those things today. We are talking about a simple compliance, and nobody knows compliance like company secretary and our chartered accountant friends. You know, you're the champs at compliance. So today we are talking about a compliance which, if not done, in certain cases can lead to a civil penalty of sorts. You know, so it is that civil wrong. It is not a crime that we are speaking of for the purposes of today's lecture. So I wanted also to get that out of the way. My friend has spoken about in what cases, and he's referred to the 3rd May notification and the 9th May notification to tell you in what cases you may also become reporting entities when there are certain obligations on you to report certain transactions. For example, you are acting as a nominee director, or you are getting somebody else to act as a nominee director on a company of your client, which may be the Indian subsidiary of a foreign organization. You are actively handling financial transactions such as buying and selling of property on behalf of your client. So some of these things is something that may make you a reporting entity. And once you become a reporting entity, then you have to do certain compliances. I'm not going to go into too much detail. By the way, the way I plan this conversation is I'm going to take you through a very interactive conversation between us in the form of a quiz, you know. And by the way, let me not lose you into thinking that, you know, it's going to be a test or anything. It's just going to be a very fun conversation because what we've tried doing is this. Some of these regulations, sometimes if you look at them in isolation, sometimes it's slightly difficult to understand and unravel their meaning. You know, as somebody said, sometimes it's better to show than to tell. So what we've tried doing is we've taken some of this language from the notification that you become a reporting entity in X situation. And then we've tried to create an example around it, an example that may help you appreciate this better. An example where we put you in the driving seat that you are sitting as a company secretary, a client comes and makes you a request of this nature. What do you do? Do you go ahead? Do you not go ahead? If you go ahead, and if some situation arises, do you report? Do you not report? Some of those practical situations is something that I'll try to walk you through. And that is the point of the conversation and what I'm going to share with you shortly. Now, I was on reporting entity. Reporting entity, my friend has spoken to you about. I'll give you some practical examples on when company secretaries may be reporting entities. And by the way, let me also start with a caveat. And don't think of me as over lawyering you. We always start with depends and caveats and qualifications. But my qualification is as follows. These notifications have come, and please feel free to correct me, in May 2023. And see, most of law and notifications, you would all understand this better than I do. You all have Ramayyas on company law, full of case law, full of precedent in your libraries everywhere. Most of this notification would come to life when it is actually litigated upon in courts of law. So somebody would take subsection 1 of this notification, The regulator at some point may feel that your action falls within subsection 1. You would feel that I do not fall within subsection 1. And that may lead to a challenge on the judicial side. And that is where the honorable courts would be in a position to clarify as to whether this is something that is included in the notification or not. So some of that guidance would come in the next few years, as we litigate some of these issues for good or for bad, even with the best intentions, because the courts ultimately would have the final word on interpretation of some of these words and phrases, right? So some of the answers that you may expect from me today are answers that may have to await a judicial adjudication on a future day. So on time to time, when I'm looking at these notifications with you, I'll try to look into the future in my crystal ball and try and envisage and presume of what may be the situations. So law has to evolve by trial and error. There is a notification, it is applied, you think it should not be applied, the matter goes to court, authoritative judgment comes in. That's how the law builds, evolves, and is made, right? So we don't have case law at the moment on many of these in their application to company secretaries. We may have some case law in terms of when this law was sought to be applied against banks. So banks have been on the receiving side of reporting obligations, related litigation and penalties for a very long time. Some of these matters have gone to the appellate tribunals. Some of these matters have gone to the high courts sitting in their writ jurisdiction. And some clarity is there in terms of law as far as it applies to the bankers. But as far as it applies to company secretaries, cost accountants, chartered accountants, we'll have to await some case law. I also wanted to put this out there. Now, the examples that I'm going to deal with today, and I'm going to invite you to pull out your phones and scan a code with me and play along this quiz, are going to be in 6 broad buckets. Number 1, in different situations, who's a reporting entity? Number 2, in what cases you have to appoint a designated director and a compliance officer? Number 3, you maintain records for how long? Number 4, when do you have to do a due diligence? When do you have to do an enhanced due diligence? The KYC norms, which I love to call keep yourself curious instead of know your customer. We'd also be talking briefly about the suspicious transaction reports, which are the heart of today's conversation. In what cases should you be required to do an STR, and what are those reporting mechanisms, and broadly the schemes. So with that brief preface, let me straight away share my screen with you to just where we put all of this information together with the help of my team. Praveenji, is my screen sharing enabled?
It is enabled, you just do it, it will be checked.
Yes. Now please give me a sign if you can see my screen. Yes.
It's visible.
Perfect. So what I would request my friends to do is, please scan this QR code with me. What we are going to do is, we are going to do it slightly differently, where we also have your views on some of these. And by the way, the questions are important, the answers, that's okay. And there are no right or wrong answers in that sense. But the idea is to engage in a conversation, because when I also learn from you, from your responses, I'll be able to customize this lecture better for you. Oh, I already see a lot of numbers going up. Please feel free to scan this. My team tells me that we promise that we are not going to take your payment details away. Normally, you should not scan a QR code given by a total stranger, but I think I've been KYC checked and my team's KYC checked. So that shouldn't be a problem on the lighter side. So feel free to scan this. I can already see about 32 people at least out there. Please take a moment to scan it with your camera app. And that would lead you to the screen where I start this quiz with you. And I'm not going to, I promise you, ask you questions, subsections, rules, regulations. This is not a test of your memory. This is a test of, just looking at a situation and trying to find out an answer together. I'll just, I think, give you maybe a minute or 30 seconds to just for everyone to come on board. The more that we are, the better that it is. I've been told that at least 2,000 people can join in at the same time.
We can continue, sir.
Yes. So I'll just give 30 seconds to people to scan this QR code so that everyone is on the same screen on their mobile phones. And then, because if people join midway, then it becomes slightly difficult for us. I can see about 100 people already.
So we can move ahead. People are watching on the webinar also. No worries.
Praveenji, this becomes a extremely participative exercise. If people scan and they are there, that's just more helpful for them to be able to learn. I've been doing this for a number of years now. And I found this personally to be slightly effective. If we gamify things, people are able to, take away more from the presentation. Maybe 30 seconds more, if that's okay with you.
I think we can go ahead, sir.
All right, let's go ahead. So I would expect you to see this on your screens also. You can all see it on the Zoom channel you've joined in or YouTube, but you'll also be able to see this on your phone because we are essentially playing along. And for anyone who wants to join in later, you can go to this website, enter this code, or use this QR code to get started. All right. So, as somebody very rightly said, money often costs too much. Sometimes the conundrum and the dilemma that an expert is in or a professional is in, you have a client who's ready to, and this sometimes, young professionals find this even more of a conundrum. In the initial years, a client expects you to be slightly ethically flexible and take certain decisions which may not be within the framework of law. My advice to my younger colleagues would still be money often costs too much. So, some of the money that you may be able to earn in that retainership or that consultancy may not be worth too much and may cost you too much, actually, on the contrary, if those ethical guidelines and frameworks are ignored. So let me start at the start. I have the extraordinary company on the screen of at least 120 people who are already there. And they've all joined in through their own names or some names. So let's get started. I'm putting the first question to you now. And once I put the question to you and your answers come in, I'll do some bit of explaining on what that idea is about. So by the way, you get points to answer quickly. You get points on answering right. And you get about 20 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, depending on the question to answer the question. By the way, this is a relatively easier one. I leaked my own question paper by telling you this in my introductory comments. Fantastic. So majority gets this right. It means we are paying attention. All right. Let me take you now to some of the meatier aspects of it. By the way, every screen would show at the top, join so-and-so, use so-and-so code. So you can also join and jump on the bus later. Now tell me, what is the proceeds of crime under PMLA? I just mentioned it to you. Wow, people are really taking the quiz very, very seriously. I can see the numbers shooting up. Fantastic. So I told you, proceeds of crime is the property, money derived from a criminal activity. It may be corruption, it may be cheating. That concept is very important for you to understand in order to understand money laundering. The act of abetting or being in a conspiracy or furthering the crime is not proceeds of crime. It's the fruit of that crime. On some day, maybe we'll get together in a conversation where we look into the fact that whether a professional's fees can be proceeds of crime. For example, somebody does an act of criminality and then pays you your fees, and you are totally ignorant and innocent of the overall criminality, whether your fees can be proceeds of crime or not. The short answer is normally is no. But that's again a question that arises in money laundering for another day. Now, let me take you further now deeper into questions of PMLA and those reporting obligations. Which of the following is not an essential ingredient? The not is very important, and you have to focus and emphasize on it. Yes. So 32 people have got it right. So the Honorable Supreme Court in Vijay Madan Lal Chaudhary's case has said that if you've done any activity, acquisition, use, possession of any proceeds of crime, that tainted wealth, that is good enough to make out an offense of money laundering, and you need not project it as untainted property normally for it to amount to money laundering. But that again is something that I'll get into. No worries if you haven't got this right. I'll get into this and explain in greater detail towards the end of my presentation. Now we are slowly getting into those, since you have got the hang of how we are doing it, the reporting obligations under the law. Yes. This is the heart of today's conversation. When does a CS become a reporting entity? Absolutely. So the majority has his right. Only in those transactions where you act in those capacities as laid out in the 3rd May and the 9th May notification, that you become a reporting entity. If you are only doing work in the regular course of business, like your secretarial compliances, maybe a secretarial audit, giving a declaration of incorporation of a company, or you are helping somebody with corporate law advice, you are doing minutes of meetings, you are doing resolutions, you are advising on any of these aspects of corporate governance, you're not a reporting entity. And I'll shortly draw your attention to what specific cases you become a reporting entity. So all my friends who've said all CS members, irrespective of what they do, I'm afraid that's not the answer. That would have cast the net a little too wide, and then everyone would have been included, right?
Does this mean that only practicing company secretaries can be reporting entity?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Does this mean that only practicing company secretaries can be or should be the reporting entity?
No, it doesn't say that. It says company secretaries performing these functions. Now, whether that function is being performed in the course of an employment or as an independent consultant, that is something I'll shortly clarify. I'm grateful for the question, Pravinji. That would become clear. It's not that if you are in employment of a company, then you can never be a reporting entity. That's not the case. It's got to do with your function and your role with respect to certain transactions, which would go on to define if you are a reporting entity or not.
But if a person is in employment and is reporting, then you need to have an offer letter in hand from other company.
See, obviously his terms may be defined by the offer letter, but I think the law would look at the function that he's discharging. Let me take you to the next slide. Maybe that would make it more clearer by way of an example. One or two questions, and I'll straight away take you to the notification and break that out for you. Right. I'm very happy that, all of you have acquainted yourself with the notification. All of these categories, buying and selling of immovable property, management of clients' monies, security accounts, assets, bank accounts, organization of capital and for the company, contribution of the company, management of the company, management of companies and LLP interests, buying and selling of business entities, maybe a BTO or whatever. All of this are transactions which would make you a reporting entity. So although all of the above is also a very safe answer, normally I should have changed the sequence of the answer, but yes, this is what renders you liable to be a reporting entity. This is a notification in as many words which came out. it would be good to look at these terms. You all have an excellent eye for detail being professionals. Every word sometimes and every comma is relevant in a notification like this in order to understand which would fall within the ambit and which would not fall within the ambit. I'm not going to trouble you much over this. You can read it on your time. Very important note.
Bharatji, I have a question on this. It's better if I can ask at this moment only.
Yes.
On the second last answer, which was there regarding the sale or purchase of the companies for the client. So,
Yes.
to what extent the company secretary in practice is responsible for this? Let's say if one of my client is willing to purchase a private limited company, and
Yes.
my another client wanted to sell his private limited company, I'm just connecting both of them as a conduit.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not a part of the negotiation.
Yes.
I am not sitting into the deal between the party. I'm just connecting them.
Yes.
Whether still I am responsible for that money laundering activities?
Right. I'm grateful for the question, Praveenji. It's a very important question. Look at the language of the notification with me for a moment. And let me say this, there are no case laws currently interpreting this language. So what we are trying to read the language and trying to understand the intent. What the language says is that financial transactions carried out by a relevant person, which is you, on behalf of his client. I think on behalf of his client is also a very important expression. Sometimes you act on somebody's behalf when you are acting as their attorney. Sometimes you act on somebody's behalf when you are acting as the agent. Sometimes you are acting on behalf of somebody where you are there in a representative capacity. If, for example, simply connecting two people who may be interested in a mutually beneficial association, that should not render you as a reporting entity, in my humble opinion.
Okay.
Some of this would obviously be tested in a court. But on the face of it, the answer is no. It's only when you take things in your own hands on behalf of somebody and play a proactive role in that sense. On behalf of the person, I think on behalf of his client is a very, very important expression. Because otherwise, if you cast the net too wide, then all sorts of activities would fall within the ambit. And so this is third main. Let me now take you to the next one. Oh, we already have also, since we like to get competitive, many of our friends have joined with their names, and this should make them feel slightly happy. Okay, congratulations for people who are leading. By the way, this is only the beginning. Let me take you to the next question now. Perfect. Let's have the next question. Right. So yes. So this was slightly a question worded in that manner for a reason. Which of the following activities does not by itself pull a CS into the ambit of PMLA? What do we mean by that? This by itself would not make you a reporting entity. Now, if you look at the 9th May notification, which I'll show you, becoming a formation agent, and that formation agent, the expression is not defined so far. Formation agent of companies and LLPs is something that would make you a reporting entity and pull you into the ambit of PMLA. Acting as or arranging another person to act as a nominee director or a partner, either you become yourself or you get somebody else to come in to become a partner, would pull you into a reporting entity situation. Providing a registered office address, and I would leave it for you to debate on broadly even the propriety of that exercise, but that's for another day, would pull you into being a reporting entity. Acting as a trustee or getting another person to act as a trustee would make you a reporting entity. So all these things, first, second, fourth, and fifth, would make you a reporting entity. But if you're doing your usual compliance like annual filings and your secretarial audits, that would not make you a reporting entity. I must say that again and again. So without anything more. So I think when I said does not by itself, I think some of you did not read the negative there and went on to answer it. But let me push further now. and try and draw some attention on the 9th May notification.
Bharatji,
Haji.
again on this 9th May notification, the same point, I do have certain queries on this. The point number 2 says acting as...
Sony, I have not had the opportunity of yet placing the 9th May notification or reading it to my limited abilities. Maybe I can do that, then you can come in with the question. Is that fine with you?
Because you have shown the options, so my query was on that 5 options only.
Okay, if it's on the options, let's discuss.
Yeah, please. So the second option was acting as director, etc. partner. So it says about secretary of the company also.
Yes, that's
so
correct.
Can you define this acting as secretary of a company, how it will become a reporting entity?
So what you are referring to is this
second number.
The second number, yes. Acting as a director or secretary of a company. Now,
so I'm just reading acting as secretary of a company. So how a person become reporting entity, just becoming a secretary, and secretary means a company secretary in employment or a practicing CS.
Absolutely. This leaves all to the imagination of somebody who's interpreting it. I believe that when it says secretary, there should be clarity in terms of what secretary, because you'll recall and you'll see in the explanation, the expression used is a company secretary in practice. So a different expression is used there. Now, what secretary is this is something that may have to be clarified. Ultimately, it just says secretary. It does not say a secretary with a capital S. It does not say secretary or company secretary for the purpose of so-and-so law defined in so-and-so law. So I think, and please feel free to come in, Mr. Ilanchelian, to come in and throw some light on this.
Okay. I would like to clarify here. Secretary means that there are certain situations wherein the certain companies are not required to appoint a CS. There they may get a certain declaration signed by a practicing company secretary. That has a relationship, say for example, MGT 7. If the company doesn't have a CS, it may be declared by practicing CS, right? That is our interpretation. I mean, it is open. I mean, we can discuss over this, but if he is acting and filing certain this thing that has a bearing on this set of these activities, then he is covered.
So my question to Ilanchelian, how a person will become a reporting entity just by becoming a secretary to the company, be it a company secretary in practice or employment, and both the things are by virtue of the law provisions.
Yes. See, for example, if he signs a declaration about certain, say again, the question is in MGT 7, he declares about certain directorship and key management persons, right?
That is for the employment, company secretary in employment.
Okay, if he is practicing company, practicing CS is not. No, I've read.
No, practicing CS is not a KMP for the company.
No, I understand, but he's declaring, right? I was talking about a declaration.
Okay.
In the declaration, if CS is not there with the company, a practicing CS is giving us a declaration there.
Declaration about
this certain activity. Say, for example, let us take MGT 7. He will give the details about certain. Particularly, we are interested in key management persons and entities holding directorships with the particular entity. So, in as much as he's, it has a bearing on this, providing or acting or arranging for another person to act as a director, there he is covered in that sense.
My request to later put on some more light on this, whether a company secretary, by joining the company as a company secretary in practice or as an employment, whether he is supposed to be a reporting entity. And so my next question is, whether I am responsible as a reporting entity if I choose to become a director in one of my client companies.
Again, say for example, it has a bearing to your earlier question. If these all notification, both the notification only talks about who are. If somebody is employed under a regular salary with any of these company, they are not supposed to be they are not reporting entity. That is clear. Only when in the course of your business, you are dealing with multiple businesses in offering holding directorships or trying to incorporate a company as a practicing CS. Only then you will be classed as a reporting entity. If you
But
are,
this says about director also, sir. Second number point.
You see, director. Yeah, again, it's a director. You see the notification. It is in the course of business. There, let us not worry about your whether he is a CS or not a CS. Even as an individual who is acting as a director, I mean, as a nominee director. Sorry, if he is acting as a nominee director, and in multiple other entities also.
If I may just
again, so,
please go ahead. Yes,
yeah.
finish.
So yeah, that's what. So if he's acting as if a professional is acting as on behalf of another third person, if he's acting as director in various directorship, is holding directorship, he'll be covered under that fifth clause.
So my simple question is for the point number 2, if I am a practicing company secretary for the company, and by just becoming a director in one of the company of my client, whether I'm responsible as a reporting entity?
Yeah, again, there whether you are beneficial owner or it is you are nominee director.
Nothing. I'm just getting sitting fees, whether I am an independent or non-independent.
Okay. So you are not drawing. Again,
no stake into the company. No stake into the company.
Okay, but I hear. I mean, it prohibits, right? Your rules for prohibit practicing civil CSS to be a director holding any benefit. Okay, you mean to say you are not having any financial benefit out of this thing,
except for sitting fees.
Okay, then you will be covered.
Will be covered within the reporting entity.
Yes.
Okay.
See, I'll just offer my 2 cents on this for whatever it's worth. Now, when this notification says that when the following activities, when carried out in the course of business, number one, course of business is something that may need some sort of clarity going forward. What is that course of business and what is not in the course of business? Number 2, on behalf of or for another person, as the case may be, something that also needs clarity. Maybe when we go along, and that's the challenge with, you cannot foresee every problem that is going to arise in the future. So you go with the language and then maybe some clarification can come in. How do you become a director for a company for or on behalf of another person is another, conceptual or a jurisprudential challenge, if I may put it. You are a director. If you're a fiduciary or you hold that fiduciary responsibility for the company, you're doing it on behalf of somebody. Is that in the sense of a nominee, or is that in some other sense which the expression doesn't make clear? Is something we'll have to have clarity on before we have a certain answer on this. And there are certainly more than one interpretation possible. I think we can all agree on that at this point.
Bharatji,
Bharatji,
one more question on the similar points. Point number 3.
Yes.
Providing a registered office for a company. So as a practicing company secretary, I hope it's clear, but still I wanted to have clarity from you. As a practicing company secretary, I am providing my office on a rental basis on a commercial term to my client so that they can make my office as a registered office of the company. Now that company or the promoter can have any other places like that. One of that place is my office, which I am lending it to the company. Whether it is also amount to be making me as a reporting entity, or this is into PML transaction?
See, providing a registered office is a very wide expression. And please pardon my answers. You may call them lawyerly, but we are looking at a provision which has to be then interpreted. When you say providing a registered office, it does not clarify whether this providing is arranging for it, gratuitously providing for it without consideration, or can you also be a landlord in a given situation? And whether that is consistent or inconsistent with broadly the propriety of your duty as a company secretary is another question that arises. And I don't have frankly an answer to that. And I look for the professionals and the regulator then to elaborate and deliberate on this, on what this expression means. Because you put a very, very fair question. For example, it may be a case where the company secretary has not given it to 10 people. It is only one premises he had, and that has been given, in a formal legal relationship. How would that work out is something that still needs answers.
Elanchel, would you be able to guide on this? As a practicing company secretary, I have my office and I am giving this on a purely commercial terms. which is available on the market to my promoter on any other premises also.
Okay.
So whether I am amounting to into PML transactions.
So this is easy. If you see explanation A, it clearly says that it's a regular. If you have a proper legal lease arrangement and you are deducting TDS, it's fine. I mean, you are acting in the capacity of a landlord. It is very simple to judge. But we have seen many cases, particularly with respect to foreign companies. They just talk to one of these professionals, and all the correspondence will be addressed to this same address of multiple entities. You try to understand the sense. I think you have the sense of what we mean here. But if you are in your capacity as a landlord, if you are offering a building for use by any other entity, that is fine. I mean, you are not covered here. But as a business, to facilitate multiple companies operate in a single location, that is definitely covered.
Okay, so that means the proper document agreement is there, terms are there, rates are commercially viable on a competitive market basis, TDS is deducting everything, then it's okay. Compliance is there.
Yes.
Then it's okay, it's doable. Thank you, sir. And
Yeah.
the last point on the same point was acting as a trustee of an express trust. This I wanted to understand on behalf of my members. How this amount to be PML transactions or making me a reporting entity. Point number 4 on the same 9th May notification.
That's correct. I mean, we over the discussion with the professionals, we see that most of the time lawyers are mostly associated with such type of trust. But again, we have seen like here you should read it with the business. I mean, even if a member is not a practicing a practitioner of CS or CA, if he is into there are very companies that that arrange for their members to be a part of trust, and they will be the registered owner, registered trustee, but beneficial owner will be somebody else, maybe a kid or somebody else. So there many times it is a vehicle for exerting control over some third party structures. So I don't think there is any problem here. I mean, so that was the intent behind making these person to be a reporting entity. Here, mostly it will be some institutional companies that offer their services to act as a trustee. So it is immaterial whether there is a CS or he is not a CS. He is a private individual. It's in course of his business.
Okay, so if it is in the course of business, I'm acting as a trustee for the properties of the company, then it would amount to invoke the provisions.
Perfect. Yes.
Right. Thank you, sir. Bharatji,
Yes.
over to you. Sorry for interruption.
No, these are important questions. Right. So I just request everyone to come back to where we were. We've in a sense explored the more introductory areas on when are you reporting entity. Now, I think we are going to get into what are those obligations, when do they come in what situations, and when do they don't come in. So please feel free to come back because of this lengthy interjection. I think some of you may have dropped out of the link and I can see the numbers going back again. So take a moment to go back to menti.com, use the code. If you must, then you'll be back on the screen again. Yes. I can see the number going up. Yes. All right. Let's go ahead. Now, when I say the above notification, this is the 9th May notification that we were just discussing. So here, please always keep in mind, and I've also struggled in understanding the distinction. 3rd May notification separate, 9th May, if you fall into some of those things, where you arranged for a director or a nominee director, or you become one, then I think a later clarification that came from the ministry was FIU, that then you may become what is known as a trust and a company service, and you may have to register and comply with that, but only in those limited situations. But broadly, please take the 3rd May notification. And then if you fall within that ambit, then ICSI has provided you with a gateway to register and comply. Please look for that guidance on their website. But this one is only for the 9th May notification. This is the notification in question, which says in some cases you may become a trust and a company service provider. And that, my friend very rightly said, does not just apply to company secretaries or chartered accountants, but anyone who may be rendering that service in a given situation and may then have to comply accordingly. Yes. So this is a slightly practical question. Just pay attention to the words used. Yes. So most of you have got this right. See, this providing the word nominee director, arranging a local to act for as partner for a client aboard, coming in then as a company secretary for the same organization may be suspect on multiple levels. So most of you have got this right. Let's move on to the next one. Yes. See, this is what, I'm picking up some of these instances from recent reportage, recent cases, recent allegations against some of the professionals. Some of this, my friend would agree, would go on to tell you what the intent of this notification is. We've seen a lot of mischief in terms of, dozens and dozens of companies having the same address and the same desk. The mail doesn't get delivered there. There's no place of business. There are instructions to forward bank OTPs. There are cash payments made for various services. It's very, very serious legal and ethical questions. I'm not even getting into the question of whether you are a reporting entity or not in those situations, because some of these cases, we found the professionals also being prosecuted in the first part of PMLA in those situations. So this is completely out of the question. Now, also, just before I move on to the next topic, please remember you are in the scope when you perform notified activities in those 2 notifications. Routine filings may not trigger it. And there is a specific carve out in your favor when you are only filing a declaration of incorporation for a company. So just keep that also firmly in your mind. Now, which one of this is not an obligation of a CS as a reporting entity? Please read the options very carefully before you answer. Now, this is some cause for deliberation now. My question to you was, which one is not an obligation of a company secretary as a reporting entity? I think not was something, despite putting it out there in a bold and underline. You thought, what are the obligations? Now, registering yourself as a reporting entity on the ICSI website, the link provided to you by the organization, who's the SRB under the guidelines, which then takes you and connects you to the FIU portal. That's mandatory if you are a reporting entity. Appointment of a designated director if you are a firm, and if you are a proprietorship, maybe a principal officer or a compliance officer, is mandatory. Furnishing of information relating to suspicious and cash transactions is mandatory. My friend just told you in his presentation that you have to make those suspicious transaction reports within 7 days of you being convinced that this is suspicious or there is something more than meets the eye. So that's critical. Maintenance of record. He just told you that 5 years you have to maintain the record from the date of end of your engagement. I'll get into that discussion later, is mandatory. Then the last one, formulation of an internal policy on money laundering, a mechanism to fight it, training of your employees are all mandatory. The only thing that you don't do if you are a reporting entity is tell your client that you have given a suspicious transaction report to the regulator. This is known as tipping off. The regulations very, very specifically say that you have to report to the regulator if there is a suspicious transaction, but you don't have to tell your client that you've reported that transaction, because that defeats the whole purpose. So in all of those things, you have to do A, B, C, D, and then the last one, but you do not disclose to your client the information furnished to the regulator, because please appreciate that leads to a situation of conflict of interest. That suspicious transaction report is effectively against your client only in that sense that he or she has done something which may be suspicious. So you don't tell them before the sending of the report or after the sending of the report. At no point you tell them that. This is known as you do not tip your client off, right? So I think in the wording of the question, there has been a slight mistake in its comprehension, but let me move ahead if that is okay, unless Mr. Soni has any question on this particular question and this answer. I think you're on mute. I'm not able to. Yes.
Go ahead, sir. I have list of questions. I'll take it immediately.
Perfect. See, the first thing is when you become a reporting entity, what is it that you look at? What all laws, rules, regulations that you look at? Now tell me which of these apply to you. Perfect. All of this applies to you. And by that, I don't mean the hundreds of sections would apply to you. The relevant portions apply to you of the Money Laundering Act, the FATF recommendations, the 2005 rules on how do you maintain that record and so on. So all of this applies. And, the first point is that you need to know where to look at, and this gives you that sense. What is broadly a suspicious transaction report? I wanted to put it out there. It is defined under so-and-so, not broadly. And my friend very nicely put it, that anything as a reasonable person that gives you a reasonable ground of suspicion that there is more than meets the eye, there may be some criminality, there may be some irregularity. This is unusual. It is very, very complex. It does not seem to have a rational purpose. It is connected with the tax havens. There are mass remittances one way or the other without any explanation. There are insistence on cash payments and so on and so forth. It gives you some guidance on what is a suspicious transaction report. I'll build this as I go along with you. Broadly, when you electronically file a suspicious transaction report, broadly, it has to have these details. Who's the principal officer, the entity or the client, the nature, value, and the activity of the transaction, list of accounts, and so on. I'll come to that in a bit. I'll leave you with that information. You'll find this very, very clearly delineated in the guidance document, which you should also look at. I'll just shortly tell you what the guidance document's date is and when did it come out. It's a 15-page document that guides you beautifully in these matters. Now, coming back to some of the things that further need discussion with you. See, this again is something that may be covered by the earlier notification where on behalf of a client, you're buying or selling properties on behalf of a client, right? So that's one thing that renders you a reporting entity. The other part that invites a scrutiny is the use of cash. We all understand under the Income Tax Act or under, these regulations. For example, if you talk about specifically the PML regulations and the rules, any cash transaction which is over and above a 10 lakh, the last time I checked, is something that has to be reported as a cash transaction report. Banks have been doing it for years. For example, they have to do it every month in the first 7 or the 15 days. So that's always been there. And I'm glad you're mindful of the difficulties and the challenges there. Please look at this one carefully. Yes. So you've all understood this question. People are investing 50 lakhs, but they are doing it in tranches of 9.5 lakhs each. And that's coming in as a cash, for example, by whatever mode. Now that seems to be linked. This is one larger investment of 50, but broken down in 9.5, just below the threshold in order to beat scrutiny. So that's problematic. I take you back to the 3rd May regulation, which says on behalf of a client, organization of contributions for the creation, operation, and management of companies. Now, please look at that carefully. Whenever you are either assisting, facilitating the contributions from investors for companies, whether you fall within the mischief of that subsection 4 or not. And I leave it to you to decide according to your best professional judgment. And these are all things we are picking up from some of these, prosecutions on the criminal side also that we've seen in order to try and understand the intent of what these notifications seek to do. Absolutely. There is no two views about that. We've all got this understand. As somebody said, when a client says we'll explain the source of funds later, please translate that. Translate and transcribe that as please open your STR template now. Your client needs to be forthcoming, and there would still be people who are willing to do it ethically with you, but never risk professional reputation and so on for something that may require you to be flexible in the wrong ways. Very happy to then see a lot of participation from our friends here. I've been told that I'm on question number 10 broadly, and I think I should halt at in 2 or 3. Okay. I should halt, I think, in one more question I'll take, and then I'll leave it to Mr. Soni to ask his questions that he has. We are on 17, is it? Okay, so our request was made to me to stop at 15th because of time constraints. And I think I'll stop right here. Happy to take any questions which have come in through chat or whichever way. Over to you, Mr. Soni.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bharat. Your questions was really interesting, and the way it has been asked for, I think the only thing which was lacking was the less of the time limit to reply for the same. Thank you. But I do have certain good amount of questions from my members also, which it's my duty to take up the same. Ilan Jailenji, you are there, I hope. Sir, I have seen through this guidelines given for the company secretaries.
Yes.
And just wanted to note that 2 places the CDD has been used.
Okay.
At one place, it has been defined as a client due diligence, and at other place, it has been defined as continuous due diligence.
Okay.
Yes, it can be seen by your office. And one more thing is that in the mechanism for reporting to FIU India, it has been mentioned that in case of relevant person holding certificate of practice from multiple SRBs, the relevant SRB shall be determined by such relevant person based on the nature of service provided to the client. Again, I'm to the best of my knowledge, the SRB which has been defined as CA, CS, ICWA, and a person though having multiple or triple degrees cannot have the simultaneously practice from all the three institutions. So I think that also you can check, please.
Okay. This I will take a note of it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to just have a question on the explanation into the 9th May notification,
Yes.
which says that following activity shall not be regarded as an activity for the purpose of clause blah 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 blah. Now, the activities clause B, that activities carried out by an employee in relation to his employment.
Yes.
Sir, can you guide further on this? Because as an employment, as a company secretary, is supposed to do whatever activities and whatever actions which has been advised by the management. And there is no scope of work limited for a company secretary in employment. So how this will be covered? An activity that is carried out by an employee in relation to his employment.
No, this thing is that our sense here is that when you are an employee, it's like you are acting on behalf of the best interest of your company. I mean, it doesn't cover that he is acting as an employee in a CS firm, practicing CS, acting as in a firm, in a practice that is solely into CS. Here, what it means is that if a CS is employed as a company secretary in some legal entity, there is no obligation on him to go through all these obligations, and he's not covered under this May 9th notification. Does it answer your
question? So let's say if I'm a company secretary in employment in a company and my company asks me that we have this kind of litigation, we need to figure out some law firm for this. So it's my duty as a company secretary to figure out, to search for some appropriate law firms, talk to them, check their fee code, and then report it to my company.
Yes.
At the same time, if let's say I am belonging to any particular place or region, let's say in Rajasthan or let's say in UP or Karnataka, and my company is looking for in some area or some space to rent for a renting purpose and all that for my company's warehouse purposes. And if I have some connection, I will search out the same and I'll give it to the company. So whether it would still not be amount to be an activity.
Yeah, see, he's acting. He's in the employ of that legal entity, right?
Correct.
So it is not covered. That is
so
clear.
What is covered actually? Then what is the meaning of putting it there? Activity that is carried out by an employee in relation to his employment. So what do you want to include here? These all are excluded activity, but what the law wanted to include here?
Yeah. See, the law.
So where I can get catch? Actually, I wanted to know.
No, I get it. See, again, it is like, so you are set up solely for, as a practicing civil professional firm, that you are seeking business, wherein your specialty here is.
So not professional firm, as a company secretary in employment.
See, for company secretary in employment, nothing is applicable. That is clear.
So nothing is applicable.
Applicable, yeah.
Thank you for the best clarity, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, again, the D point is that activity which falls within the meaning of intermediary.
Yes.
Can you just guide on this also, sir?
Yeah. Here, sometimes you may be acting as a investment advisor, right? You may get registered with SEBI as a registered investment advisor. If you are already registered and you are coming under that, you are fulfilling that guidance, you are by default treated as an intermediary. You are already a member, whether you are practicing CS or not practicing CS or a private person, you are covered under intermediary definition. So that is a fine line. But here, you'll be already covered. That is the intention here.
There is one question on your presentation, sir.
Yeah.
Please elaborate on point number 5, slide number 2, regarding creation of entity. Whether it also covers just certifying incorporation form without any financial transaction apart from the professional fees.
Yeah, that is where, I mean, see, let us talk about it. I mean, say, for example, everywhere it is mentioned that is acting as a formation agent, acting or arranging for another person to act as. So, how do we see, how do we figure out who's acting as a, acting or arranging these set of individuals to come together and form an entity? So, and to clarify here, that's why the point number C exemption was given to the extent we are finding initial declaration. So INC 8 is okay because we are saying that in good faith you are acting. But again, if you are signing other incorporation document, it is our interpretation that it is what we suggest, that if you are signing other related documents that fulfill the conditions for incorporation of an entity, then you are covered. Then you are acting or arranging for another person to act as a director or acting as a formation agent of a partnership.
Okay. Is it filing of cross-border wire transfer applicable to the entities registered under fund management entity? FAQs relating to FIU India, it is mentioned that the first bank received the inward remittance must report.
Yeah.
Can you please clarify?
Again, sir, I mean, this and all, it is like, we will clarify. Maybe it is not properly clarified. See, anyway, it will, funds will not directly come to you. It will hit a bank and then only come to you, right? So basically, the bank which receives the fund first, they will file cross-border wire transfer report. For now, we expect only STRs from practicing professionals or whoever is covered under this 2 notification. Again, CTR, it will not come because we assume that you are fulfilling that income tax notification, and you are not handling cash as such. So we are solely we are after only a request only to file STRs, no other reports.
Okay.
Right?
If inward remittance are routed through the intermediary banks via RTGS or NEFT and credited to customers' account through STP, straight through processing, who must report the transaction? The intermediary bank or the bank crediting the customer?
Straight away, I would say the bank which first received the fund, the foreign fund, the bank which first receives from foreign jurisdiction, they will file. My only request is, you don't worry much about this cross-border fund transfers, right? You are not, you may take my word, you need not file cross-border wire transfer reports. Also, don't worry about this. Only you look after the suspicious activity only, not transactions. Suspicious financial transactions. Yeah.
Okay. Whether the Income Tax Act is covered under the schedule of specified enactment, whether any suspicious of evasion of income tax is also to be reported into FIU?
Again, see, that's what I mentioned, right? Earlier, this income tax, we have not, see, that you will come to know maybe in the course of this thing. It is a best practices. I mean, if you are sure about it, if you are if you have reasonable grounds to believe that he is evading taxes, it is definitely you have to file suspicious transaction report. But again, I would say it is not a predicate crime. Evasion of tax is not a predicate crime. And just for your members' information, only black money, if he's hiding through this third other means, or is sending funds abroad, that is a predicate offense. But still, since you have suspicion of evasion, you have to file STR.
Okay. One more question is there, Bharatji. I would also like to have your views on that. Given that the company secretaries are responsible for ensuring legal and regulatory compliance within the organization, how can a CS effectively oversee compliances with respect to PMLA KYC norms on NBFC, where loan disbursement and customer onboarding are operationally handled by the branch level managers?
See, in those situations, you'll have to make a very clear distinction between who is a reporting entity in a given situation. In those situations, it may not be you as a professional who's a reporting entity, but the organization may be a reporting entity, in which case the organization would have its own policy, would have its own designated director, its compliance officer, who would then look at the rules, the due diligence, enhanced due diligence. They would have all those systems in place. And they, in more often than not, may also, in addition to a learned company secretary, they may also have a counsel in the form of a general counsel or an in-house counsel advising them on their legal obligations as they arise. Today, the limited remit of the conversation is where the professional himself or herself becomes a reporting entity, but I don't think that's the example that is there in the question.
Sir, your view on this Elan challenge?
Sir, here it is like, only thing is that, like Mr. Chugh has said, it is a responsibility of the NBSC. They are by their nature, they are reporting entities to us. Only one thing that as a CS you can ensure is that if they are reporting entities, they should be registered with FIU India. That you should should make it a point to ask them. And beyond that, there is no responsibilities that is cast upon you in the PMLA.
From the PMLA perspective, how to divide the role between CS, CRO, and CCO? CS, Company Secretary, CRO, Chief Risk Officer, and CCO, Chief Compliance Officer.
Yeah. So there, at least from FIU point of view, I would say whatever reports that are transparency. If you are acting on behalf of a company, that they should ensure that there is an internal mechanism in place to mitigate AML risks, and there is continuous transaction monitoring, and then there is a reporting of STRs promptly as and when they find some suspicious transactions. There should be a mechanism for comprehensive framework for ensuring all these things are undertaken by the respective company. As a CS, you have to ensure that. That is the only thing that you can do. And beyond that, I don't find any PMLA specific checklist that you can.
So you mean, sir, between CS and compliance officer, CS is the primary responsible?
Again, no. See, again, I will say each company would have designated director and principal officer, right? So normally that oversight is cast upon the designated director for overall monitoring compliance activity, and the principal officer for day-to-day activities. So here, compliance CS can advise this designated director on how to make sure that all the obligations are covered. It is almost overlapping. Same the obligation that as covered for if you become a member, the same obligations is cast upon them. Same. Maybe one or two reports you may not be supposed to file, like CWTR, but they may be they are required to be filing certain reports. That's it.
Yes. If I may just add on completely.
Yeah, please.
With my friend here, I think as professionals, then it becomes incumbent on us to look at what the internal authority matrix or the terms of our contractual relationships with our employers are. So when you get a mandate on this is the scope of your duties, now that needs to be something that a company secretary needs to take a look at. The whole point of having a designated officer or a compliance officer or a nodal officer, not just under this law, it may be under the IT Act, it may be under the Prevention of Corruption Act, it may be under various acts, is to have one point authority who's then responsible for all the compliances, right? And if there is no designation in that sense under PMLA, then the company secretary is personally not responsible in that sense. But yes, it would also be defined by their obligations to their employer in that situation, or their contract with that concerned entity on what their roles and obligations are in that situation.
Thank you, Bharatji. I'll take one more question with you immediately. How to report anonymously under the guidelines?
So you are asking us,
Bharatji.
Bharat.
No, please go ahead.
No.
This is more on the practical procedure side in that sense, which works the mechanism of the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah, please indulge.
So I actually I don't have a proper way to suggest. Last time also I was asked the same question. I mean, we also receive anonymous complaints, but we don't have a specific online based anonymous complaint receipt mechanism at our end. We receive it through a post or other hard copy type only, but it's very questionable and we don't encourage at all. We always encourage members to file. Our systems are secure and it will be completely anonymous. And even if you file, anonymous without going through the proper channel, at the end of the day, it will be acted upon by the LEAs. It will be disclosed. And in fact, you may also be questioned because, I mean, for if you had, it would make sense to, do proper through proper channel, it has to be addressed. So, but still, we receive anonymously also. And I have no specific point to add here.
Okay, so what is the this question is regarding trigger point of intimating to the FIU or the ICSI, let's say. So suppose when we came to know about the transaction after happening of the same, then do we still need to report to the FIU?
Yes.
Or there was no red signal, no red flag earlier?
Okay. Yeah, see, that's what there we give discretion. We leave it to the discretion of the member, because it all depends on first he should be convinced that it was a suspicion indeed. So from the time once he is convinced, then he has to file immediately through whatever mechanism that we have devised, and it will be acted upon in a respective manner. Yeah.
Okay. It is okay. What risk mitigation measures which can be undertaken by a practicing company secretary?
Yeah, that was as I suggested. We even though we have given some red flag indicators, right? There were around 50 odd red flag indicators which was published in our. It is already available in website. Those were the situations that roughly indicate that this customer client may be of having something dubious. I mean, those are the scenarios that you can check for. And also, we frequently, as and when we talk with stakeholders such as ICSI and other institutes, we come up with a broad-based and understanding, and we issue a note guidances. So we are in the process of preparing additional follow-up to that. That's why there is an NRA going on. Post NRA, we will be issuing another set of guidelines. So they can follow routine FIU issued guidelines and red flag indicators for making sure the risk is mitigated.
See, some of the things, if I may, I'll just take 30 seconds on this question. Some of the things which have come up in different situations is, for example, you have somebody who's reluctant to disclose the beneficial owner or the ultimate beneficial owners. Sometimes you see that resistance on the part of the client to questions. And ideally somebody should welcome questions, but sometimes there is that resistance. Sometimes there is that expectation that some document would be done in a certain way. Sometimes there is large related party royalty consultancy that you see going out to a different jurisdiction without any basis, without any reason, in newly constituted companies, with very weak substance. You see entity hopping, you see off-the-shelf companies, you see large cash dealings, you see unexplained third-party funding of capital. So, many of these in a professional's judgment are very, very big flags, which are by all means to avoid. But then this is ultimately comes down to a situation and your judgment on it.
Ilan Chenji, my question is regarding the incorporating of foreign companies. The query is regarding what checks are to be put in place while incorporating a foreign company.
Yeah. See, in many cases, the problem is like when we deal with the foreign clients, there is no, a set document which we can reliably, take it as authenticate their antecedents. So that is a challenge. So you must endeavor to try to use some third party tools. That's where I'm sure if your members are dealing with foreign clients, I think they will have some devote some resources through checking. To check that entity whether they have proper background, their background is clean, and they are well known entities. And also they can check for the whatever the KYC documents that we have put out. They are submitting it, and if there is some resistance in submitting that, and if they are predominantly based out of some gray listed countries or some jurisdictions where there are weaker KYC AML norms, these are all the activities that members can check. Again, there will be challenges with respect to verification of their OVDs. That's what we call officially valid documents. But you may always ask about some sort of certificate from the embassy or their own Indian embassy in their jurisdiction. some sort of proper documentation should be properly done with respect to these foreign entities. And also, you should understand what is the purpose of them, establishing any sort of legal entity here. These are the things that you can check. I mean, we have seen three aspects: customer services and geography. These three pillars you have to be very careful with respect to foreign investors or foreign entities.
Sir, how to address false positives generated by AML software?
Yeah, this is a challenge, sir. This, I will be candid here. It is a problem. Even the banks face it, but you can, try to, the thresholds can be, here you can always take help from these tools that the tool who provide these tools for screening these entities for sanctions match. You can play with the, type of thresholds. Because you won't be dealing with thousands of transactions. Only handful of individuals, foreign individuals, will be you will be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. You can play with the threshold for matching with the whatever names that have been discussed. Featuring in the designated list. But it's a trial and error only. I mean, here it would help if there is some sort of informal discussions among your members. They can share the best practices. I can very much share, what the banks are doing and how do they minimize this false positives. I can definitely share it after this meeting.
Is it sufficient that a reporting entities do a name match and or PAN match with the database of regulatory agencies, or any other details are also required to be checked?
Yeah, that is what a name match. There are certain, for example, PMLA wise, we ask for this UNSCR list and also weapons of mass destruction list, and UAPA will be there because of this terrorist financing, that is local home ministry issued list. These are the three lists that we normally tell our reporting entities to screen for. But this can be easily done. I mean, it's not very complex. You can just work with the Excel also. I mean, if you are not a single practitioner. So I don't think with this three you can. I think you can screen. You can manage. Beyond that, there may be thousands of other screenings like offered by various SaaS companies. Based on your resource and the risks that you foresee, you can opt for these third-party tools for screening for all the world level, that OFAC list or this other negative media screens or foreign PIPs. It depends on the risk. If it's a low risk, means you can just start with these three lists. If it is a high risk, you can opt for some third-party tools for checking.
Sir, in case of adverse media report, what should be the course of action? Again,
adverse media report, it may be of, say, he may be convicted long back on some tax evasion or some sort of, some other different crime. But today, if he is able to properly justify his intentions and whatever endeavors that for which he is seeking your services, the judgment is up to the professional there. I mean, just because he's featuring in a negative media report, that does not mean he has to be. He need not proceed with that relationship. It is just a kind of two risk categories. If he's already in some sort of negative research, he may be classed as a high risk for enhanced monitoring.
See, just to add a word there, absolutely agree. See, even we've seen cases of media reports, but what the Indian law says is, and this is what I go by as a lawyer, this is our first basic structure, that there is a presumption of innocence. Yes. Also always make that distinction between somebody being convicted after a trial and being found to be guilty, yes, or there being an allegation. These are two very different things. My friend is absolutely right. It is one of the considerations that you keep in mind, but you don't have to attach a weightage to it and keep it as conclusive or think of it as conclusive at all, because most laws have that presumption of innocence intact. So please make that distinction, ask questions. There is no difficulty in trying to get more details of the accusation. There is no difficulty in getting details of how many other cases are there. Because see, there may be one case or there may be 10 cases that would weigh differently with you. In many of our cases, we've seen adverse reportage by the media, but later a person is acquitted, and not only acquitted but honorably acquitted, जिसे हम बाइज्जत बरी बोलते हैं law में. And then we go back to the honorable court and we say that this person also has a right to be forgotten. And then in some of our cases, the honorable courts have said that let this media reportage also be deleted because a person has a right to reputation and get a lawful service from a lawful professional. So just keep these things also in mind.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful information, sir. So, which is the forum for appeal against the order of the director FIU India for non-compliance of diligence and maintenance and reporting obligations, etc.
Yes, if I may, with your permission.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Under section 12 of the PMLA, the director FIU has certain orders that, in fact, I was going to actually come to it. There's a very important question on what it can lead to if there is some sort of a non-compliance or non-reportage. So 13 of the PMLA is what empowers the director FIU to inquire, ask you for more information in that inquiry, ask you for more records. In fact, in certain cases, they also have the power to do an audit on your records. And then whatever is needed, and also give you a show cause, by the way, because we look at natural justice. Nobody can be condemned unheard. So you get an opportunity to put forth your side of the story. And once all of that is done, then there are 3 or 4 things that the authority can do. One is they can give you a warning in writing. If it's a first offense, it's not that grievous. They can also ask you to give some more reports periodically. They can give you very specific instructions to do X or X, Y in order to ensure transparency and hygiene. And finally, there is also a possibility of a monetary penalty, which is between 10,000 to 1 lakh for each default. In some cases, each day's default. So let's assume all of that is done. I just wanted to say this for everyone's benefit. Now, anyone who's aggrieved by this order can go to the appellate tribunal, which is constituted, the appellate tribunal dealing with PMLA matters under 26 of the PMLA. And you can file this appeal within 45 days of the order. In fact, you can also file it thereafter if you're able to show sufficient cause. And then that appeal is heard by the appellate tribunal. And before you ask me the next question, let me try and anticipate it. If you do not also prevail in the appellate tribunal in that appeal, which is known as a statutory appeal, then you have a further right to go to the Honorable High Court, but only on questions of law. So there, if you are able to say that there is some serious legal error or there is some non-application of legal provision, then you can also go to the High Court in a time frame. Apart from these 2 remedies, in certain cases, the courts have also said that, for example, you get a show cause notice, for instance, that does not give you any details, or you think that the process may not be respecting natural justice, then in some exceptional cases, there may be a possibility to go to the Honorable High Court or the Supreme Court directly in a writ petition if you are able to make out a case of fundamental rights and on that higher threshold. But your normal remedy is before the appellate tribunal and thereafter to the High Court.
So if question of law, I can go to the High Court, then on a question of fact?
Normally on a question of fact, you'll have to go to the appellate tribunal only. And if you are still dissatisfied having faced 2 of those orders, then High Court on a question of law. But if you think that there is some unconstitutionality in the whole process itself, then you can straight away also go to the High Court in certain exceptional cases in a writ petition.
Okay. Thank you. What are the major vulnerable activities for money laundering and terrorist financing which should be avoided by practicing CS? I think Bharatji, you can reply this way.
See, some of this we've spoken about. If you look at practicalities, I've not been able to find any actions being taken so far against company secretaries under the reporting mechanisms, that you've not given a reportage, or it is not sufficient, or you delayed, or you've not done what you had to as a reporting entity. What we see otherwise in prosecutions daily, day in and day out, for example, those Chinese company cases where many company secretaries have generally been prosecuted, and the general modus operandi that comes across from those cases is, again, that same old allegations of relatives, drivers, staff as directors, same address belonging to the company secretary. Many companies are running there with no substantive businesses. Investments coming in violation of rules being signed off. Sometimes the professional, donning the robes of or becoming the party himself or herself instead of just being an advisor within the framework of law. So some of these things, the professional needs to ask themselves the question and then be extra careful in some of the cases or industries or geographical regions or typical structures that we see are more prone to criminality, and that is something that usually renders them vulnerable, not only on the reporting side but also on the prosecution side, unfortunately. And sometimes, a person's heart goes out if you have to defend, a professional, a chartered accountant, or a company secretary in some of those charges. And by the way, under the reporting entity, the sanctions are all civil and penalty, right? But there the sanctions can be an arrest, can be a search and seizure, can be seizing of your computers. Then under PMLA, the threshold for bail is also extremely high. So please be on the watch out for, as I said, and I started my presentation by saying that, money often costs too much. So please do that analysis, take a step back, and always are on the side of caution and compliance and not on the other side.
Thank you. We do have a good amount of questions, but unfortunately time is over. So I'll be taking one or two last questions only, sir. Ilan Chelinji, just one question regarding the different industry. How do you identify a suspicious activity for an NBFC providing student loan to the institute?
Yeah. So again, sir, this again, you will be acting in the capacity as a CS.
Yeah.
Again, these NBFCs, there are standard practices for reporting they have to fulfill, and it is clear. Only request is here that you just make sure the designated director and the principal officer of the respective NBFC is well aware of the obligations under PMLA, and they are having enough systems in place to monitor the transactions and report it to FIU India. Again, right, that is the only thing that you can do in your capacity as a CS. And beyond that, we also don't require much from you, I mean, the CS who's associated with that particular NBFC, right?
Sir, I'll take one last question on this.
Yeah.
What are the regulators' expectations from reporting entities on AM compliances and monitoring?
Yeah. So the basic thing is that, I'll start from the beginning. The main reason why we were brought into this framework was that, one is that, you are the gateway to the financial ecosystem wherein all the legal entities are found with your assistance. So most of the modus operandi associated with the financial crime is based on these legal entities which are manned by dubious entities. So these legal entities are used for laundering proceeds, which is very difficult to capture by the traditional reporting entities. So the first thing is that you should make sure that all the beneficial owners associated with all legal entities have a very solid background, and they are actually having a skin in their game, and whatever they are doing is doing for the genuine purpose. That if you are not sure, either don't take up such clients, or if you have taken up such clients and over the course of relationship, if you have found out certain suspicious activities, then you file suspicious transactions report in respect of those clients. It may turn out to be false positive also, but it's fine. The basic that is the first thing that we require out of your members. And second is that many times few bad apples, they help such entities to structure transactions in or legal investments and also financial instruments in such a manner that the control is exerted by somebody else, which are totally not aware, not brought out by looking at the paper or whatever the filings that are there. So in that case, we put faith on these institute and members like CSS to make a reasonable inquiry into such complex transactions and file STRs wherever it is required. So this is the basic expectations out of it. That's why we have not put all the activities undertaken by you into this PML framework, only with respect to certain set of activities where it has a bearing on this, beneficial ownership and on the associated misuse of legal entities. So that is the take home that I would like to suggest.
Thank you so much, sir. I think this is a new law, and our company secretaries are to some extent afraid of about the compliances, how they can check, what is the trigger point when they can come out, what is the point when the red flag can be raised, or generally the people are not aware about the source of money of the client. So it is very
Yes.
tough to go and investigate deeper into the client's area and to understand and find out from the client and to ask the client whether from which sources the money is coming from. So it's very tough to ask, and it's again uh, uh, like sound like a backbiting to the client who's giving you bread and butter. So which
Yes.
is something different. And again, I have read with the provisions of the tipping off also. While
Yes.
you are intimating to the client, you are not supposed to communicate before, during, or after the communication with the client again. But that is obviously not doable. Not someone would not be doing. But the thing is that the thing which we are communicating to the regulator FIU India, that must always be in the knowledge of the client also. So the humble request from the professional fraternities not to see the prima facie as a professional, as a guilty or somewhere mindful into this AML, PML activity, so that the people are there to cooperate to the nation building and to the government of India's projections on the making it an AML free and all the terrorist activities funding free. But yes, somewhere we are in a learning stage at this moment. We all are into the learning stage, and we are cooperative, we are supportive to the government projection. But yes, it would take time. It would take some time to have more learned into this field so that we can be proactive. And again, the losing of client, losing of business, having legal action, these all are something which keep threatening to the minds of the people. With this note, sir, I something last comment you wanted to have on this?
Yeah. Just briefly, I totally get your, your point there. I mean, it may be if you ask too much questions, and they may also be feel, it's like you are putting your members in a spot. I understand that, but we have seen across the board, across the banks, finance, and payment intermediaries, everybody has passed that experience, and it will over the time people also appreciate that thing. And it is as for the country, it is a small sacrifice that we have to do. But finally, sir, I mean, whatever that over the course of discussions that we had over the past 3 years, there has been a positive response from all these institutes and the members. And there are many gray areas over there here. And we will certainly, we will not make it, we will not put anybody at a disadvantage. We'll, wherever there is a doubt, please, write to us. Even today's questions which we have not answered, please, forward it to me. I will make sure it is all replied. And we will first work towards, allaying all whatever apprehensions your members are having. That is the first basic thing that we have to target. And second, we will come back with detailed I mean guidelines wherever there is doubts there for in the form of FAQs, so that people can easily check for the respective queries. And third, we have asked for whatever during a part of our NRA, we asked for the members to give their opinion on what are the risks that they face in the regular course of action, even though it is not a part of this PMLA, just to get a sense of money laundering vulnerabilities in the members' area of business. So I hear from Ms. Khatri that very few have given. So please, I would request through this forum to all the members to share it. I mean, also please always think it in the positive spin, because we are not going to penalize in any way. It is in fact it will legitimize our profession in the global standing. And because every advanced countries have have very good PMLA compliance with respect to this profession, but we should also match up with them to be have a same global standing. So we will be together. We will be helping you in every which way. Let us forget about whatever administrative sanctions that under Section 13. We are not going to have such thing in at least in the near term. Our aim should be to bring out everybody together in this framework. We will work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ilanji, for your support and cooperations and guidance on this matter. Thank you once again for sharing of your good time completely throughout the webinar and guiding our people. Though I was not able to take even 50% of the questions asked for, but I think it was quite interactive session, and our members have got good amount of learning and knowledge in terms of the IML and PML activities are concerned. Bharatji, Once again, thank you very much to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for spending of your good time. Thanks for your questionnaire also, though because of the positive time, I think we were not been able to take most of the same. But yes, the interaction was quite interactive, and you have responded the questions very well, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sincere thanks to both of you on behalf of the ICSI. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.